You're live.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to the 70th week of the Free Assange Online Vigil. This is our special Saturday episode with Gordon Dimmack and Krish Mohan as our guests. With co-hosts, I'm joined by Steve Poikinen and the wonderful Misty Winston. But before we get into it, I did want to go through the numbers with everybody. Today is day 3,622 since the illegal and arbitrary detention of the WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange started. It is day 576 since the WikiLeaks founder was trafficked from the Ecuadorian embassy after being sold to the United Kingdoms for a $4.2 billion IMF loan to the nation of Ecuador. It is 67 days until Vanessa Baraitser is due to make her January 4th, 2021 decision on Julian's extraordinary rendition hearing. It is day 1,246 of federal incarceration for whistleblower Reality Winner. But in good news, it is day 233 of freedom for Chelsea Manning. And as always, she does stream on Twitch. It is XYChelsea87. So I'd like to encourage everybody to go over and check her out. She streams Thursdays through Sundays, generally from like 7 to 11 Eastern time. But with that, how are you doing today, Misty?
I am doing very good. I am preparing myself for a full court press on the Donald for a pardon. I'm going to become his worst nightmare.
How are you, Steve?
I'm cold. It's fucking freezing here.
It's warm here.
I've become California soft over the last 15 years. Normally a 40-degree morning wouldn't bother me too much, or at least when I was growing up in Indiana or living in Colorado. And now I'm like, I need a robe and a blanket, and this sucks. Yeah.
Come back to the Midwest, Steve. Come back to the Midwest.
I need to take myself out of this state. When I do, I'm going to be headed a little bit further south than the Midwest, though. So somewhere out of the exact buckle of the Bible Belt, I believe. Think I'll be a little bit happier that way.
Yeah, I would think so.
Hey, did you hear that the media declared Joe Biden was president?
Woo! Yay!
On election day, the New York Times had to delete a tweet that they put out that was like, it's the job of the media to declare who the president is.
That was amazing. Oh, that was amazing. And then they deleted it, and then everybody was making fun of them. And then they put up some other weird tweet like, that's not what we meant.
Yeah.
But,
I didn't think that you could cook up and crystallize and snort hubris, but here we are.
Oh, leave it to the New York Times, little fuckers.
My goodness. Gordon Dimmack, it is good to see you, my friend. How are you? I miss your face.
Thanks, guys. It's good to see you all too. Has America, invaded America to bring America some American democracy yet?
We're working on it. We are.
Yeah.
It's going to be a citizens movement this time, though. We're not going to go get bankrolled by Russia or the Bank of England, or it's going to be self-funded this time around. Probably much messier.
You mentioned Russia there, Steve, but nobody's talking about Russia all of a sudden, are they?
It is amazing. We did 4 years ago. It was the Russians have invaded our freedom and democracy. And those same exact people are going, how fucking dare you question the integrity of the U.S. election system? Joe Biden is a saint and he won outright. Shut the fuck up and go to bed.
Yeah. And Lord Putin is very disappointed because he's no longer everybody's favorite man.
Krish,
dude likes the attention.
To you too. I would love to hear your take on what has happened to our once fair shining beacon on a hill. Here.
Well, obviously we defeated fascism. We solved racism.
We did it.
Did you guys get your health care? Did you guys? I mean,
it came this morning in my mailbox.
I got all of my holes flushed. The second I heard the news, that's the first thing I did. I was like, I'm going to the doctors and I'm just flushing all of it. I'm getting rid of 4 years.
Krish is,
of all
Krish
of
is clean as a whistle right now.
I'm ready for the blue wave, baby. That I want all my holes to be filled with any blue will do. Which is
All this talk
interesting
holes
about
is
that,
why.
though. Interesting about that. Joe Biden is the first president elect in memory where he won, apparently, according to
The New
the
York
big
Times.
brains in the media.
sure.
He's won the presidency, but managed to lose seats in both the House and Senate.
But
So
it's fine.
No, you've
That on
defeated
its
fascism
face.
at the ballot box, and you're meant to
Yes.
just
That's
disengage
it.
the logic side of your brain and
All
just
the
go with it.
fascism is gone. Fascism is off the table.
We're
Steve.
done,
It's
you
gone.
guys.
Now get
We're
ready
in.
for mandatory mask mandates, a new lockdown, an immunity passport, and the
censorship.
inability to work because we're going to have UBI in an automated nation.
But fascism is gone.
But fascism.
We won.
Gone.
Well done, America. We did it.
It really okay, so the Bill Hicks bit where he kind of wraps it up by going, "Go back to bed, America. Your government has figured everything out. Go back to bed, America." Like that's happening right now.
This is
Yes,
it.
it is.
Yeah. I for one am very excited that the Democrats were finally able to elect their own Republican. That's so exciting for all of us. They did it, you guys. They set out 4 years ago to find the perfect Republican to run under the Democratic ticket and win, and they fucking nailed it. This is what a day in history.
Do you guys
I
have
can't
brunch
wait
plans for
for-
tomorrow? Any brunch plans? Does anybody have any brunch plans? Anybody?
I'm actually late for brunch right now.
No.
I'm actually not allowed to be at brunch ever. I don't know
Fair
if you know, socialists are not allowed to go to brunch.
Oh,
We're not.
I'm
Did
waiting
you
for
order
it.
the wrong
exclusionary.
Did you order the wrong kind of brunch wine?
Yeah, I think
Was that
that's
it, Chris?
that was it. I did not order the very specifically chosen imperial mimosa that I was
Yeah, if
supposed
they
to.
catch you spiking your mimosa with vodka, you're no longer invited back to brunch.
shit.
I did an even bigger thing. I ordered gin for breakfast, and they were like, "That's
Good
Shouldn't it be
call.
like
what
intersectional
country is
brunch?
that even from, Krish?" And then that was it. I wasn't allowed to eat my fucking eggs with hollandaise sauce anymore.
Oh,
I think
man.
it should be intersectional brunch. All should be allowed, except for fascists. Because
Except for
fascism is dead.
That's actually what a Joe Biden administration promises to deliver is some of that sweet intersectional fascism.
Oh, I'm so excited for that. Can't wait.
Yeah. Fascism can now be multicultural.
Now, come on, Steve. He's the only person I was reliably informed by Morning Joe today who could thread the needle to become president in 2020. That's what they said.
Oh.
Oh.
I don't think Joe Biden could literally thread a needle, like an actual thread with a needle. I don't think he
couldn't.
could actually.
You're right. You are right.
I thank you on behalf of those of us who were never going to watch Morning Joe for taking that bullet for the team, man.
I saw it on the tweeters.
I
saw
catch,
it on the tweets as well. I don't watch corporate
yeah,
TV.
I catch clips. That's about as much as I can take. And what's fun now is I think what's very exciting, something else that I don't think we're taking into account is one, we don't have to worry about Rachel Maddow's psychosis anymore. She can finally go get the therapy that she has needed so desperately for 4 years. But more fun, Tucker Carlson is now going to become the new Rachel Maddow, you guys. And we can expect a rant about how every day we are going to be forced to drink Starbucks, which is so exciting because I have been waiting for the day where somebody's going to force me to drink mediocre coffee every single day. Like I'm so excited that's gonna be the reality we're gonna live in.
You know, I gotta say, in terms of being subjected to delusional rants by incredibly rich people, I almost prefer the Tuckster to
Yes.
to Rachel
He's
Maddow.
less shrill
I really like.
and less annoying, kind of. Rachel Maddow's
At
really
least we might get to see more Glenn Greenwald and
That's
more
true.
Roger Waters and stuff like that. The occasional Tucker Carlson with Jimmy Dore, where it's two white guys screaming at each other in agreement, you know.
I'm just wondering, do I have to learn how to say Comrade Misty is Putin's buddy, except for in Chinese now?
Right.
Do I have to do that? Do I have to flip? Do I have to change teams? Or can I just, I really love Putin. I'd like to stay with him. He's right there.
I think you've got to change it to Communist Misty is Xi Jinping's buddy or something like that now.
I need to learn how to say buddy in Chinese.
China.
Somebody hit me up with how to say buddy in Chinese.
That's a wonderful idea. I bet if you type in buddy to Google Translate, they'll give you.
I'm sure they will.
You know. I don't know. It was a little thought experiment for the day.
I already got a Putin mask, though, guys. Come on.
And you've hit your mask quota for your life.
I don't know if they make one.
Mask quota. I'm never again going to be able to.
I just got it though, Steve. I just got it like 2 weeks ago, man. Haven't even had some fun with it yet.
No, I'm sorry.
Feel sorry for me.
I do. That's a shame. It is. Where the fuck do we go from here, Krish? What I want wild speculation and ridiculous predictions from you right now.
Well, I think within the first 100 days, Bolivia, not a correct election, not a fair election. We got to take the Bolivians down. And since the CIA coup failed, I think the only way to do it is send the American military down there. So within the first 100 days, we're going to invade Bolivia. Within the first 100, we're also going to invade Venezuela because it's right there, you guys. It's right there. You know, why would you waste the manpower? And fuel. So we're just being efficient that way. And we're going to ramp up police brutality with the mask mandate. That's the way that we're going to do it. So this is good news. Finally, somebody taking down the Bolivians, huh? We've been waiting.
They have been getting rather uppity.
They have been getting rather uppity with their fair elections and
bastards.
Better elections than America. Bullshit.
Can't have that.
More than two parties. Who's told them they could have more than two parties? Those bastards. And again, guys, very excited that I think we're all going to be forced to get healthcare we can't afford. That's going to be fun. So Biden administration looking good for those first 100 days. And I think Donald Trump is going to get a nice new segment on Tucker Carlson's show. So if we all thought Trump was going to go away, that one might actually be a real thing that would happen.
I actually see Trump TV being a thing.
Yeah,
I see him starting a network. I see him trying to poach Tucker, probably Sean Hannity and anyone else who is still giving him favorable
Laura
coverage at this point. Yeah.
Alex Jones might get a platform on that channel.
Maybe.
I would watch that.
Shit Stain Barbie will have one, I bet.
Which one is Shit Stain Barbie? Is that Tommy Lerner or is that Candace Owens? I'm not sure.
Gun Girl. I bring it up because Josh loves that nickname. Gun Girl, the girl that shit her pants. I call her Shit Stain Barbie.
Okay. Taylor went to college with that chick.
Yeah. But she'll probably have it. She could probably get a job there, I bet.
You're all wrong, by the way. You're all wrong. What you do is you declare it null and void, and Juan Guaido is the president. That's what you do.
Oh, I got something for you. I do.
I think Glory declared Steve president. Is Steve president now? I think Glory
did declare me interim president, and I made DMT mandatory.
Yes.
Wait, Gordon, is Guaido the president of all of South America?
Well, you can you could make a good argument that he should be the president of America, because I think it's fair to say that more than 18% of Americans have heard of him, which is more than the Venezuelans had heard of him when. That's it. I think it was Alex Rubenstein that tweeted it out. It was brilliant.
That's great.
I think you honestly could make a really good case right now that more than 18% of Americans have heard of Guaido, which is 18%. That's how many Venezuelans had heard of him when America and us declared him the winner of Venezuela's election that he never ran in.
President Guaido. That'll be
It's
fun.
all perfect sense. Disengage the part of your brain that looks at things like logic.
That makes
and goes
about
back
just as
to
much
sleep.
sense as our actual elections did.
Well,
Our actual elections
that
are completely nonsensical.
That would allow Tucker Carlson to start talking about birth certificates again, too.
Oh, that was a fun time.
Yeah. Remember Sarah Palin? She might make a comeback.
Oh, fingers crossed, you guys.
That'll be fun. What's the British reaction been, Gordon? I'm curious. Like, what's going on over there? What's everybody thinking?
I can only tell you what the reaction is from within this room. I haven't looked. They're all saying on Twitter that Biden's won and normality and we beat fascism at the ballot box. It's like, if you honestly think you beat fascism at the ballot box, A, it wasn't fascism in the first place, or B, you didn't fucking beat it, you idiots.
Yeah.
But they will carry on just pretending that everything's fine. And in 4 years' time, when Biden's unselfishly had a stroke and Kamala Harris is now president, you'll get Kamala Harris, basically a right-wing authoritarian pretending to be a centrist, versus Darth Vader running in the GOP. And that's going to be your choice. And everybody's going to say, not this year, I'm afraid. Nah, maybe 2028.
Yeah.
There you go.
I am kind of curious what you guys think, though. Do you guys think that Joe Biden will last? Do you think they're going to try to push him through the full 4 years? Do you think
he can't be president? The man's got dementia.
Yes, sure. I understand. Yeah. But I'm just wondering, because apparently if he makes it to 2 years and 1 day, if Kamala Harris doesn't serve more than 2 years, she can technically run for 2 more full terms. So technically she could be president for 10 full years. Are they going to be able to pull him to 2 years, 1 day?
Maybe.
I don't think it matters, does it?
Fair. I think
they've hijacked your democracy. It doesn't matter. It's like no matter who wins here, the people lose. There's no way that you people that the winner of this election can go anywhere near what Americans would call the sense of the people. The sense of the people is outrage. That's what I get. I mean, you tell me. Your constitution is an amazing thing. You should look at it. You really should, because this was a travesty of the election, and you got to do something about it.
And the fucked up part is the counter-reinforcing propaganda that's existing within it, because you have two false choices. Like, you can defend democracy and be like, oh, well, Donald Trump won. He's our president. He won the election, even though he's a horrible war criminal fascist. Or you can ignore reality of democracy and then openly be okay with elections being rigged to say, hey, well, we beat fascism. We have no more democracy. Joe Biden's our president. And so it creates this counter-reinforcing story that no matter which side of that left-right paradigm you pick, you're literally still just getting folded into the meat grinder. And it's the same thing that you see with the QAnon and the Russiagate, to where both of those solely exist to allow for the expansion of the national intelligence state. But each one says the other one's wrong and bad, while both of them say that Julian should be prosecuted.
Of course. You've just got the illusion of choice there. And this is the way they've set it up.
Mm-hmm.
I will ask this. How many people voted in this election? Was it 160 million or something like that?
I think it was higher.
It was such a big record that there aren't even enough voters to corroborate it.
Okay, all right. So let's say it's 200 million and it took them 3 days to count it. And let's face it, nobody's got any confidence that this is a correct count at all. And if the only people who have is the Democrats, and that's because they pretend won. America can count 130 million votes on American Idol in a commercial break. Why is it so difficult? Why is there so much confusion? Why is it all up in the air? Is it because it's designed that way?
Mm-hmm.
And American
And
Idol
it's designed that
are
way.
more
Maybe we
secure.
should change it. You know, this electoral college of yours is ridiculous. We have a first past the post system. That's bad enough, but your electoral college is ridiculous. You don't even vote for the people who vote for the president. You know, you vote for the people who vote for the people who just suggest that it was going to be the president or something like that. It's ridiculous. The only, I mean, why have you got this thing in the first place? Was it because basically you couldn't communicate quick enough? That's essentially what it was. Yes, farmers out in the, you couldn't communicate quickly enough. Well, duh, you haven't got that problem anymore.
No, what the problem?
They like it like this because they like it like this because they can rig it.
Chaos favors the establishment.
Correct, Misty. Absolutely correct.
Yep.
And the thing with the Electoral College now is that it prevents California and New York from deciding every presidential election. And I'm not saying that we need to keep it the way it is. I think everything about our voting process needs to be torn apart, stripped down, sold for scrap, and start over.
In your constitution, it says the choice of the president should reflect the sense of the people at a particular time. Is that the case?
No.
Is that the case? Well, then you've got to do something about it. There's things you can do.
I don't think that's ever been the case.
I don't think that's been the case for my lifetime. I can't.
I'm reading from Wikipedia here, guys. This is what I'm doing. This is how much of a journalist I am. I'm reading from Wikipedia. Choice of the president should reflect the sense of the people at a particular time, not the dictates of a faction or pre-established body such as Congress or the state legislatures. The choice would be made decisively with a full and fair expression of public will, but also maintaining, quote, as little opportunity as possible to tumult and disorder. So basically, if you do some sort of mass Gandhi-like protest where nobody's getting hurt, nobody's getting protest and what have you, and it's clear that that is the sense of the people, you'll get your change, or you certainly should get some sort of, I don't know, hope or something. I'm just trying to think of things you can do. But
the closest we got to that was probably FDR, and the only reason why he actually represented what the people wanted is because he fucking listened. And when you had
and there was pressure put on him, there was a ton of pressure.
There was public pressure put on him, and then he basically listened to what the public wanted because he knew that that's the only way he gets to keep his seat. That's the only way he gets to be reelected. That's the only. But it wasn't because he decided that the Wagner Act was going to get passed. No, we decided that the Wagner Act needed to be passed, and then he just kind of did it. That's the closest that we've ever gotten. And that's not saying much at all. You know, I have this discussion with Americans all the time, is that, you know, FDR was the greatest president of all time. Why? The only reason why he was the greatest president of all time is because he was scared of us. He was scared of the people because he realized what the people can do. And I think this moment now, if we're being serious, is a moment to show people like Joe Biden and Kamala Harris and the entire DNC and the Democratic Party and the Republican Party that they have every reason to be scared of us. And they did have every reason to be scared of us. If you looked at all of the strikes that were going on across the country, if you looked at the Black Lives Matter movement, the new civil rights and the new labor movement that was coming up, that's all scary shit to the oligarchs, to the people in power that have zero representation of us. They have no reason to represent us at all. And they got scared. So what do? They basically pushed the antithesis and then made the antithesis seem like it was what the people wanted, and then used the main corporate media, commercials, and all this shit to basically make Joe Biden and Kamala Harris look like something they weren't. And, you know, everybody just forgets the fact that Joe Biden came out and said nothing will fundamentally change under him. I mean, what more of a confession do you need? How much more of a confession do people need, right? But like you said, and I've been saying this for a long time, regardless of who wins this election, the people will lose because the people are willing to ignore major confessions from political personalities, and that's really all they become. They become.
And those people are now celebrating the election of Captain Crime Bill and the cop. Right. And we have progressives talking about AOC 2024, and these people are
look for the series Captain Crime Bill on the Cop on Nickelodeon Saturday 7 p.m. I don't know if you guys saw my Twitter last night, but I got a little upset with some of the people on the progressive
Totally
left.
not like you at all, mate.
Totally
trying to act like Biden can be push left, and I tried to frame it in a way that people could understand. You know, I feel like as a man of the people, I can speak frankly to my people, and I said that there is less chance of pushing Biden left than there is grabbing any random dick on the planet and watching individually wrapped Starburst pump out after you give it a good squeeze. And I feel like I might be a little overly optimistic there.
Yeah, Nico's response to that was good. So you're saying there's a chance?
I mean, look, man. Let's give Nico House some credit here. Like his team at MCSC Network with Nico and Pasta and Fee, they have been blowing a hole in
Fee is tearing America apart at the moment. She's like a Tasmanian devil.
She's fucking fearless too. She has been getting trashed. People have been attacking her constantly, and she does not give a shit. She does not care. She doesn't care.
No, dude, the radicalization of Fiorella Isabel Majorca has been one of the most beautiful things that I have witnessed in the last solid year. It's just great.
Agreed. It's kind of like watching the radicalization of Jimmy Dore in real time. Slowly but surely, he's radicalizing, and I love it.
Except for he gets to a point, and then he walks it back about 8 years.
He's like super, super radical, and then Movement for a People's Party. And I'm like, oh my God, dude, you were so close. You were so close, so close.
It's like he sits around going, how can I fuck this up?
Well, I will say on an electoral level, that's the only thing that I'm like, okay, that might work, but that's not the only thing that we need to put our efforts into, right? Is like Movement for a People's Party is far better than what we have now. And I know Nick, and I know all the people that are involved, and they're all great people, and they're all doing work, but that is one part of a much bigger thing. It can't be the be all end all. And the people that, again, but that's the problem I see with a lot of American politics is it all comes down to the election. It all comes down to beating fascism at the ballot box, and then we beat fascism. And like you said, Gordon, is if you try to beat fascism at the ballot box and it wasn't fascism, or you fucking didn't do it, and that's what people need to realize.
Exactly. I'm with my friend Jen Kugler on this one in that the only way forward is some sort of constitutional amendment, because he used to say, I remember, that the Constitution was a beautiful thing and it's got peaceful revolution built into it. That's, I think, the route you've got to go down, because anything else, they are just going to crush. And even if you try this peaceful angle, they're going to try and crush it. But at least if you can show that you're trying to do it in some peaceful way, and not just America, it needs to everybody around the fucking world to do it. I mean, Jesus Christ, these wars are tearing us apart. We're at war with 25% of the planet's poorest people for resources. We cannot carry on doing this, otherwise we're just going to literally eat the planet alive. Other than that, guys, I don't know really what I can come up with at the moment. It sounds a little bit defeatist, but yeah, I'm not defeated. It's just it is what it is, and you just move on. And
there's a difference, though. I think there's a major difference between what we saw in the early 1900s with the labor movement and the strikes and people rising up against their government versus now, and the fact that we can publicize all of this shit. It was a lot harder for people to say that the government is sending in troops to kill peaceful strikers back then than it is now, right? Like if there's a bunch of peaceful protesters, and we saw this over the summer, and then the National Guard shows up because there's a lot of peaceful protesters around City Hall of any city, and the National Guard shows up, that's on Twitter within the first 38 seconds. Right. So it becomes impossible for the government to run this narrative that, oh, look at these, things are going to go violent, so we have to send the military to protect our cities, to protect our critical infrastructure. Right. It becomes far more. So let's use that knowledge. And when these people send the military in to essentially shoot their own citizens, yeah, let's put that shit on Twitter. Let's put that shit on every piece of social media and spread that shit around. But but the people forget that stuff though. By next week, it's like, oh, what National Guard, right? And it's like we have to keep remembering that, and we have to keep like putting this information forward and talking about it more and more. That's the only way you're going to get a big movement like that to actually take hold, when people are so distracted and so like obsessed with the drama and the fucking entertainment that's on corporate media.
Can I just add on to that? That's a great point. And I'd like to just add on to something as well. I'd like, if possible, for us to start fucking talking to each other. And I mean talking to people that we ordinarily wouldn't like and we don't agree with. I keep saying this. We are getting divided by the 5% that we disagree on, and none of us are getting the 95% we fucking agree on as a result. We've got to start talking to each other. I posted something last night on Twitter. Within a minute of a Biden and a Trump supporter talking, they both agreed, yeah, we're going to get fucked, and we both would have vote for Bernie. Well, there you go then. It's clear your choice of president does not, represent the sense of the people at a particular time. So do something about it. I'll keep screaming over here and doing what I can and trying to fucking end these wars and get truth out there. But, it needs people power. We can't do it.
I don't know if you're aware of this or not, Gordon, but I have another show called Slow News Day, and on that show I talk to people of all kinds of political bents, and that's kind of one of the premises of that show. In fact, I've been screaming that we're more alike than we are different for the better part of 2.5 years now, and hopefully it catches on.
The problem is you have the woke left who thinks that if you want to talk to anybody to the right of maybe like Bernie Sanders or Elizabeth Warren, then you're a Nazi collaborator. And,
well, that's why you don't see those asshats on my show more than once, because I tell them some pretty uncomfortable truths about that, and then they go away and shit talk.
Well, I mean, that's a part of the problem, though, because a lot of people are afraid to even have those discussions because then the woke left will scold them and call them Nazis. So, fuck those people and go have those
screaming. We need a movement for a people's party.
Right. Yeah.
Simultaneously. Yeah. Krish, we're gonna have to talk off camera about MPP someday.
That's cool. That's fine. No, I think you're right, and I, as somebody that's toured across this country for the better part of a decade, not that I can tour now because that's irresponsible to do, but I mean, I toured the South and the Midwest primarily during the Trump administration, and there were more. I can very easily say that there were more Trump supporters and real progressives, like real lefties, trying to do the work that came to my shows and wanted to talk to me about not just things that we agreed on, but why we disagreed on certain points. Then there were the liberals that yell about tolerance and equality and how people should treat each other better, except when it comes to whether or not you voted differently or not. I mean, I have more liberals in the last 4 years that have walked out of my show than conservatives. I've had more conservatives come up and talk to me about the fact that they agreed with me 80% of the time, and the things that they didn't disagree with me, they were like, we thought it was funny, but we just don't agree with what you're trying to say, and here's why. And then we have a drink together and fucking talk about it. And at the end of the day, we realized that what we're talking about is the difference in how we are going to approach the problem. That's the major difference.
So what you're saying is you're now a Nazi collaborator.
Apparently.
I think what it's really going to come down to is the revolution of the individual. Yeah. Because we have a global intelligence state at this point that is specifically tuned to interrupt any efforts of mass organizing, which fucking blows. But it's just one of those things that if there is a big movement of people, you can generally consider it at the behest of an intelligence state to either cut off some type of social unrest or to manufacture an issue. So I think it's literally just going to take individual peoples saying, I'm no longer going to witness injustice. Because one of the biggest quotes from Julian that sticks through my head is, When you sit by and witness injustice, you become jaded to it and you lose the ability to act or something like that. Like I fucking butchered it. Yeah. But it just takes you saying, I'm not going to let this happen. Like this is the one thing I'm going to stand on. And then it just grows. And then you as a person have a foundation to move forward with whatever you want. And then when something happens, you don't need 10,000 people to get in the street with you. You just have to go to the street in hopes that there are enough other individual people that recognize the problem to walk out there with you. Because I think a lot of the ideas when people put out and say, like, we need a general strike, we need to shut down everything, like, no, we just need to change our own individual behavior. So that way, when a major incident happens, we are all individually prepared to take it on in some way.
I think that's where it starts. I think that's how you build. And I've been saying this for, at least the last 4 years, probably since I started looking at the labor movement and all that kind of stuff, the history of that, as like a source point, like the history of all that, is it always starts ground up. If you want real fundamental change, it's not going to come from the top down. The president's the office of the president is not going to create real change. The Supreme Court is not going to create real change. In fact, the Supreme Court is always the last one to do it. So, it has to start from the ground up, and it has to start from that's it. On an individual level, you have to talk to people that are different than you. You have to talk. I mean, I had a guy that has followed my work for 5-6 years block me on Facebook because I made a comment that I didn't particularly feel safe under the Obama administration because immigration was a total mess under him. He created ICE and there were more deportations. So, DACA is a big plus, but it's one big plus versus 3 pretty major negatives. And I got blocked instead of him trying to have a conversation about like, oh, well, that's interesting. I haven't heard that. And just build the conversation from there. But I have conservatives come up and tell me that they don't believe the same way that I do. And they don't attack me for it. They just want to know what's up because I think they're tired of being chastised in this country. Where I think the core of it is, if you want to change on an individual level, if you're on the left or if you're a liberal or if you're this staunch Democrat that thinks that the Democratic Party is the be all end all of all things good in America, then you need to drop your smugness and start talking to people and figure out why they don't think the Democratic Party is the greatest thing since fucking sliced bread, and learn some shit about the people that are around you. I don't really see that. I saw less of that this year since March than I did even back when we were looking at the 2016 election, which is sad.
Yeah, I agree with you though, because conservatives, as somebody who criticizes everybody, I don't get near as much hate from conservatives as I do from progressives or liberals.
Today you should try saying something about QAnon because holy fuck, my mentions are on fire right now.
No, see, I've dealt with some QAnon people before, and they're just incredibly delusional, and that's not something you can really combat.
What you've got to do is just trust the plan, and right. If you trust the plan, it'll be fine.
The other two
that's where you're going wrong.
Yeah, those people, it's like Russiagate. Like Russiagators are delusional, QAnon's delusional. It's just, I don't even know how to combat that. But
the fucked up part about the entire QAnon thing is they're like 60% right. Like there is a global pedophilia ring. Like our elections are fucked. Like there are international war criminals. The CIA and FBI are terrible organizations. But Daddy Trump,
a limited hangout, man.
What?
That's why it's called a limited hangout.
Right. Yeah. No, and it drives me fucking crazy. Like it's like the most painful thing in the world to watch people sacrifice every principle for the hope of getting new things tomorrow or something different or some fancy Christmas present. Because
it amazes me that people following a trail of crumbs through a digital forest don't realize they're about to wind up in a witch's oven.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. So true. Yeah. And I think a big part of this is also the propaganda aspect of this. I mean, Steve said it a million times. The people of this country are the most propagandized people on earth.
Yeah.
And that's a huge part of the battle that we're going to face, because our media is completely co-opted by corporate America. We do not have legitimate media in this country. And that's why I said it before, I will say it again, support the shit out of independent media all day long.
And get the fuck off social media if you can, and create your own channels of communication, because if they're controlling the airwaves at the moment, what the corporate media say. But you've seen as well the suppression on Facebook and Twitter, etc., etc. It won't be long before you can't criticize Israel, and that's classed as a hate crime, and you're kicked off Twitter.
Look at how they protected Joe Biden. You couldn't even put
exactly.
up an article about Joe Biden that was relevant and that was sourced and that had documentation to back it up. You couldn't even post that without getting suspended. It's crazy.
We're heading into a brand new era of social media censorship. Like, if you thought it was bad in the last couple of years, that's going to seem like a ball tickle in about 3 weeks.
It's incredible as well, because it's so easy to fix. It's so easy to fix, but they won't do it. And the reason they won't do it is because they don't want it fixed. Well, sorry, no, they do want it fixed for them, fixed so that they can set the parameters. But when I say they, I mean Silicon Valley billionaires with lovely beards. Oh, have you seen his beard? It's lovely. And, really what they are is just corporate fascists, just doing whatever they can to not get regulated and not get beaten with that stick of regulation, so they can carry on making more money, even though I've given all my wealth away. Look at my beard.
Yeah, and you can't criticize them either. And I think that goes into another big problem that America has, which is this like worship of tech titans. Right, it's like the people that probably in the 1920s that used to worship people like John D. Rockefeller, that used to be like, this guy is the best, and this is what we're doing to people like fucking Elon Musk and Jack Dorsey and fucking Mark Zuckerberg, or any of these big tech billionaires that are making money off of our content, right? Like that's what they're doing, and they get to determine what can and can't be said on their platform. And everybody's like, oh man, these guys are amazing. Where I criticized Jack Dorsey for going on Andrew Yang's podcast and saying some shit like, oh, he's going to donate money from his some NGO thing that he started, and he's going to donate money to Andrew Yang's foundation to help American citizens. And I was looking at it going, why did you need this third party channel to donate money to this other third party channel to give Americans money? Like, couldn't you just give Americans money if that's what you wanted to do? And it's like, oh, it's because of the fucking tax loophole, so that in 2 years you triple your income because of what you did today. And that's really what it is. And criticizing that was like this onslaught of people that were just like, you fucking can't, give these people a shadow of doubt. Like, you can't cut them some slack. They're doing their best, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, dude, if you wanted to give people, like, I gave groups and organizations money that I wanted to give money to directly out of my pocket, instead of creating some third party thing to like save tax money or whatever the fuck. Like,
Krish, if you criticize Andrew Yang, they will come for you.
The Yang gang is pretty vicious sometimes.
They will come for you.
Yeah, the Yang gang has been pretty vicious on me. Which
I have had my experience with Yang gangers. Like I said, I'm somebody that criticizes everybody. So I've been attacked from pretty much every angle. And I would say K-Hive is probably the worst. Bernie Sanders supporters are the quickest to block me. But Yang gangers are up there. They're pretty up there.
Yeah, but which again goes to show that we don't know how to talk to each other. We just don't know how to have the discussions where you say, oh, you attacked my favorite mascot of an idea.
Well, when you operate from a cult of personality, that's going to be a problem that you have. People need to disassociate themselves from the personality of these politicians. They're all shitty. They all suck. They are all self-interested douche canoes.
Right, like, but isn't that what we say about Kanye? Like, we're like, oh man, Kanye, we like his music, but he's kind of an asshole as a person. We need to separate the two things. It's like, can't you fucking do that with everybody else too?
No, not where politics is concerned, Krish Mohan, because in America, an increasingly secular society, the energy that used to go into religious fervor has been transferred to political identity.
Oh, fuck you guys. I joined this country at the wrong fucking time.
Dude,
Wait, Gordon, can I fucking join you over in the UK?
I would
There's
like
no-
to make
Well,
something. I'd like to make
I will
something
say this. It's,
clear to the Yang Gang, though. We all grew up. Well, maybe not Andrew, but we all grew up with Bernie Mac, right?
Yeah, I grew up with Bernie Mac.
Yeah, and Bernie Mac had a famous moment at Def Jam where the crowd was exceptionally hostile. We're just tearing apart the comedians that went before him. And Bernie walks out and he goes, "I ain't scared of you motherfuckers."
yeah.
And they fell in love with him. They did.
Yeah.
Well, I have let the Yang Gang know that I'm not scared of them, and I can talk to most of them now. Like, I'm not scared of you, motherfucker. Come talk to me about this shit. We can figure it out. And a couple of my favorite people now, like, started out as like diehard Yang Gangers, dude, and now they're kind of like,
I have a ton of Yang Gang followers on Twitter now. I totally agree with you. I have a ton of Yang Gang followers on Twitter now because I think you're right. If you go in there and like you let them badger you around, which that's not really what I do ever, but they will just attack you. And then it's like a hive mentality. They bring in all their friends and they tag people, and then it's like your mentions are trashed for 2 weeks. And but honestly, I kind of enjoy that sort of a thing on Twitter. It's like entertaining. So bring that shit on, I guess. But yeah, like some of the people that follow me now that are some of like my favorite people are Yang Gangers, and I've been into like knockdown, drag out Twitter fights with them, and they are friends with me now. So I mean,
the important thing to remember about the Yang Gang is that they wanted something different.
Yeah,
and they looked at Bernie Sanders.
CNN contract.
No, I mean, gullible 22-year-old office nerds aside, what they wanted was not a run-of-the-mill politician. Instead, they got Andrew Yang, who came out of the Obama administration. But they didn't learn that right away. So they're at least open to new ideas, kind of. And they
were able to see through Bernie Sanders, which I think is good. That's a good thing. They were able to see through Bernie Sanders. They watched what happened to him in 2016, and they were like, okay, not that guy. And that I appreciate. So that's good. That's a good first step.
But you should be able to criticize whoever you follow. I've criticized Tulsi Gabbard and Bernie Sanders because you give a shit about these people, right? And then but at the end of this election, I basically realized that I don't think I need to put all of my chips into one fucking candidate. This pin aside, I don't need to put all my chips into one candidate. I would rather put my chips into a movement built by, not to sound trite, but whatever movement that the people are building, whether it be the labor movement, the civil rights movement, or whatever it is, let's back that. Let's back each other and support each other instead of some mascot of an idea. And that's what these politicians become.
Yeah, well, I think I've noticed that over the past 4 years is that I think what this country is lacking is intellectual consistency. People are willing to criticize, the person that they don't like. But if the person that they do like does the exact same thing, then suddenly it's okay. And we're seeing that right now with the election, with the people who were like, Russia hacked our election in 2016. And now they're like, oh, but our election, how dare you question the integrity of our election?
No, this was fine.
It's like, it's this intellectual inconsistency that people just cannot wrap their heads around, being consistent in their criticisms and having, a base of ideas that you operate from and always applying them to every situation. It's very tribal, and that's a very big issue in this country.
You've got it nailed. You've nailed it on the head as far as I'm concerned, Misty, because look at what we've just gone through. We've gone through 4 years of Russia hacked our elections. This is what they said over and over. I have seen Joy on MSNBC, Joy Reid, just in the last couple of months say outright to the camera, well, he's a puppet of Vladimir Putin. We know this already. She says it as if it's a matter of fact. When you've got 4 years of that sort of, constant propaganda, it goes into somebody's psyche. And then now, after this clusterfuck, let's just call it what it is. It's a clusterfuck. It's exactly what we all predicted it was going to be. Nobody's saying Russia at all. something smells rotten in Denmark. It's almost like that they're just making this shit up just to go along and carry on having all the money and giving people fuck all in return. That's what's going on here.
Yeah. It's amazing. It is almost like that, Gordon. It is. It really is. Almost. Not quite.
Almost not quite. I know.
Well, the other thing that we're seeing is an evaporation of any political identity at all for any group. Like you have the left, which are the like my body, my choice. Like I'm a libertarian socially, but socialist politically, like shit like that. Where you have those people who went from saying my body, my choice to now saying, no, I want government control of things. And you have the right who went from saying, hey, we want the government to control medical policy to now saying my body, my choice. So there's this really weird shift. And if we could, as a group, as a community, could hit everything from the right angles all at the same time, we can bridge ideological gaps, because you can get feminists and anti-maskers all chanting the same thing, which is, I don't want the government controlling medical policy and things like that. So there's this weird period that we're in that if we play our cards right as the people of the world, we can bring these different ideologies together, because now everyone in their own way and time is realizing the same thing, but from a different perspective.
Well, then that's the other thing, is it all boils down to sound bites, and it boils these larger ideas into these smaller sound bites. You know, oh, government-run healthcare, you're going to lose your hospitals and old people are going to die, and they don't really know what government-run healthcare actually is. You know, so
social media is to blame for that, in my opinion, mate. People are trying to have, you know, complicated conversations, and conversations that can be really easily hijacked in 280 characters online. And not only that, you know, people have mentioned Twitter. I'm on Twitter constantly. I know you guys are. What is it? 15% of Americans are on Twitter regularly, something like that. You're only speaking to a really slim cross section of society. And if 85% are getting their media from their Facebook feed and whatever groups they're in Facebook and the CNN, MSNBC, they're in their own little bubble. They're not aware of things like Julian Assange. They probably think Julian Assange, oh, he was that guy who hacked Snowden, wasn't he, or something like that. They'll say something like that. They don't know.
Russian asset who single-handedly delivered the election for Donald Trump. Like, I've had somebody tell me that.
It's a fact strike, Gordon.
I deleted my Facebook on election day. And holy crap, guys, I feel like 15 pounds lighter having done that.
Yeah.
Like the instant sort of like, oh, that I felt after deleting this god awful tool of surveillance and misery
it's hard.
It was so rewarding.
I deleted mine about 2 years ago, and everything I've heard since then is just even worse. I mean, every 30 seconds, that if you've got just the app on your phone, if you've just got the app on your phone, you never sign into it. If it's running, it's in the background going, I'm here, I'm here, I'm here, every 30 seconds to the nearest, you know, receptor. So at any time, if you've got Facebook there, Facebook can sell you, you know, give your data to it, or give the pointers to your data to advertisers who can basically augment your reality and almost certainly get you, if something gets put here or there, they're messing with your psyche. It's like they've got a little voodoo puppet doll of you. You know, and they know what's going to ring your bell. They know what's going to get you angry or get you sad or get you motivated or put you to sleep. They know this. It's very easy through algorithms to manipulate a psyche of an entire country, especially if they're just taking all your data off you and giving you pretty much no reward whatsoever, because let's face it, data right now is more valuable than gold, and these bastards are taking it all off us. And I fear that there's going to be two different societies in the coming years. There's going to be the ultra rich like gods, and there's going to be the mere mortals scrapping around in the fucking sewers like some dystopian movie in the future. It's really worrying.
Documentary, Gordon.
Sorry?
Did you watch Millie Weaver's documentary on the Shadow Net?
On the Shadow Net? No, I don't think I did.
Okay, so what it essentially is a puff piece for Donald Trump. But what they talk about in it and what they show and allude to in it is a real-time product of exactly what you're talking about, where people's emotions and ultimately decisions are driven by algorithmic targeting.
And driven by algorithmic targeting, and the people making the rules are fucking Silicon Valley billionaires in America. Nobody in the UK is making these decisions at all.
People like General McChrystal and a number of other nefarious motherfuckers. Here on the Vigil, since the end of Julian's hearing, what we've been doing every week is going through a different witness statement, trying to keep the goings on of the hearing relevant. Today we have scheduled John Goetz's statement, which is pretty extensive. I would like to invite both of you gentlemen to stick around for this, if you have time.
I think I do. I think I'm okay. I was due to speak to somebody, but I don't think he's come back to me, so I can carry on, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm good for a little bit more.
Okay. Well, in that case, we're going to go ahead and transition because it's pretty lengthy, and John Goetz, of course, is the former Der Spiegel reporter who worked very, very closely with Julian during the release of the Afghan war logs and Cablegate and a number of other high-profile releases. And his statement during the hearing and testimony just shot massive hole after massive hole in the prosecution's argument. So it very relevant, especially as we approach the end of closing arguments, which again won't be delivered in person. They're going to be not handwritten, but written out, typed up, delivered to the judge, and none of us are going to be able to witness some of the most important closing arguments in modern human history.
Democracy.
Yeah.
What a shame.
Justice. Fuck.
Truth and justice.
I did have a friend of mine tell me that's the big thing coming.
Truth and justice?
Just justice.
Oh,
we don't give a shit about the truth anymore.
Well, we do have the top cop now as vice president, so some justice, my friend.
Man, that top cop rocks some Timbs, yo. So she.
I do feel like if you fuse Kamala and Joe together, you do get that very old Frank Miller Batman. I feel like that's what you would get.
I thought you were going to say one whole ass psychopath, but yeah.
Which is the very old Frank Miller Batman. He's kind of a fucking psychopath.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Totally.
He's like, what do I need? I need an army of Batman. It's like, no, you don't. Fucking retire, bro.
I mean, I'd like an army of Batmans.
I need me another circus boy. Go get me a circus boy. I'm gonna make him a partner. Fuck, dude.
Good times. Lots of fun.
Wow.
We need a Joker, not a Batman.
No, that's true. Totally. 100%.
I think he was the good guy.
I do too. Totally agree.
You'll watch The Dark Knight with different eyes if you look at it thinking the Joker's the good guy.
I've been recommending this book to a lot of people. It's called Batman White Knight, and it basically makes that argument. It's a great story.
I'm gonna look that up actually. I want to read that. I'm totally writing that down.
If you think about it, before the Joker turned up, the mafia. Sorry, carry on, Steve. You carry on.
Swordfish. Did anybody watch Swordfish? John Travolta, Halle Berry, and Hugh Jackman. Halle Berry got like almost naked for 30 seconds, and it was the highlight of the film.
Oh, I've seen that clip. I
like the hacking bit where he's got all the streams and he's going around in circles. Like, if you've ever seen anybody hacking, it's nothing like that. It's literally a guy in his basement with Cheetos all over his shirt, but they made it look so fantastic.
Great electronic music in the background. And I'm like being like, no, yes, no, yeah, dude. At any rate, the whole point of that movie was to get people to root for the bad guy. And I think that it put a little bit of perspective on who is and isn't the bad guy in any particular film. I'm going way over time on this, and we have a witness statement.
Right, I know. Yeah, I'm sorry. When did the Batman talk?
I don't know.
Yeah, you just sort of got derailed.
We're very scripted.
We I don't know if you gentlemen know this or not, but from time to time we get accused of being a scripted, produced, paid show.
Which is really funny because anybody who watches this show knows that I am all the fuck over the place. And if I am scripted, then I'm either a really good actor or
you really need a better role.
Next time they start doing that, I'm just gonna respond with my donate link.
Yeah, we need to make a clip of all the nonsense they talk about.
Like people yelling at me because it's like Monday night, and I'm like, I got this. Don't worry, guys.
Misty, I think if you have writers, they're the best writers in the world. I really do.
I do not have writers. That's just my brain.
No, this is not a scripted show. Everything we are saying is from the top of our head.
Comes right from my brain.
But I'm reading the fucking Constitution, by the way.
I'm reading my notes from all of our fucked up production meetings. All right, Steve, go, because we are off track now.
Oh, crap. I actually don't have this pulled up yet.
Okay, hold on. I do. Do you want me to start?
Yeah, please.
Okay, so first slide, Sleepy. Okay, so this is again from John Goetz. In June 2010, I was asked by the leader of the investigative team at Der Spiegel, of which I was part, to travel to London to represent Der Spiegel in an investigative partnership with WikiLeaks. We understood initially this was to be about Afghanistan. I was asked to be involved because of my experience in doing stories on Afghanistan and also because of my experience in doing stories about the U.S. military. As a result, I had a familiarity with military and U.S. government jargon. I traveled on June 30, 2010 for 3 days of meetings with the other media partners. They were Julian Assange from WikiLeaks, David Lee, Nick Davies, and Rob Evans of The Guardian, myself from Der Spiegel, and Eric Schmidt from The New York Times. The main reason for the meeting was to have a preliminary look at the material and to come up with a plan on how to coordinate journalistic cooperation between the partners. I remained a part of the team at Der Spiegel that worked with WikiLeaks until I left Der Spiegel in the summer of 2011. 2011. So that just basically gives you kind of a little bit of a background of who this guy is and what his role was in these releases. Steve, do you have it pulled up or do you want me to continue?
Yeah, I do. So I had it pulled up before we started the show, but in order to get like the camera and the background up, I have to close out my browser that I got sidetracked. But anyway, it's up. In those early days, the work done on the Afghan war logs was particularly collaborative. We were all working together in the initial stages in the same room together. I remember different combinations of us constantly talking about what we were finding in the documents. The data, later known as the Afghan War Diary, was in a form that was difficult to read. I remember that a technical person from The Guardian had managed to make it more readable in an Excel format. Nevertheless, as the work that followed was extraordinarily demanding. The scope was overwhelming, and the demands upon all of us were enormous and stressful for a range of reasons. The task to understand the amount of data involved presented an exceptional challenge, and the exercise in which all of the media partners together with WikiLeaks were involved was to intelligently, imaginatively, and effectively find constructive ways of managing the data, leading to its publication in a responsible way. Does anybody? I want to pause here briefly for a moment to get some of the panel here to weigh in. Do you remember as far back as 2010, 2011 when all of this was breaking, and like, were you clued in back then? Is it something that you had your eyes to, or did it fall by your purview?
Let's see, in 2010, 2011, I was basically in full-blown post-traumatic stress disorder through my friend shooting himself in the head. Yeah, and by the way, that's a stupid name for it, PTSD. There's nothing disorderly about feeling terrible after a horrific thing. So no, I wasn't aware of basically how important this was until I started this channel to 2017 until I started my channel in early 2017. So no, I didn't know anything about it.
Krish, were you aware of this in 2010? Were you following it?
No, 2010, I was out of college, completely jobless, broke, living with my parents, and also dealing with the suicide of a friend.
Jesus,
So, which is like this weird parallel that happened in 2010. Yeah, I didn't know about this until same thing, very, very recently. But again, 2010 was what that was what Obama days. So why would we give a shit? There was a Democrat in office, you guys.
Yeah, I actually, this is what made me start paying attention to WikiLeaks. So I was kind of clued in. I was very interested in it, mostly just because I always like when powerful people are exposed. It makes me very happy. So it was, it was fun to watch. So yeah, I was definitely kind of, I mean, I wasn't like as hardcore as into Julian Assange and WikiLeaks as I am now, obviously. But I was definitely paying attention to it and following it to some degree.
Yeah, I think it took me a little while to figure it out. I mean, 2010, I was fucking 21, 22, still thinking like MSNBC was a reliable news source. So I think that was like the start of me to pull out of that whole cycle of things. So yeah, but once I find out who Julian Assange is and what he's doing, I think around 2015 is really when I started looking into Assange and what he was doing and why he was important.
My story with Assange is very similar to most people's story who are a supporter of Assange. I didn't know much about him. All I remember back then was headlines in the Guardian, etc., just saying how much money that we'd spent on surveillance in the UK on him at the Ecuadorian embassy. That was basically the big takeaway that I took from it, to which I was like, oh, leave him alone, bloody, what are you just surveilling him for? It's, you know, and that's basically, I would have thought, how most people will think, because most people are not educated about this. And like myself, once I did get educated about it, and the more I began to understand and to realise how important this is, and the more I found out about what he'd actually done, he's just published, you know, material that has proven that war criminals are war criminals who were lying to us all along. You know, the more that you get a sense of outrage, and then I was delving into it more and more and more, and the more you find out about this, the more you realise just how bad they have been outright just fucking lying about him. They know that he's not a rapist. They know that he's none of these things, but they have no problem in alleging that he is, because, hey, it doesn't matter. They get to go home to their nice plush apartments and write another article tomorrow. They don't give a shit about what's right or wrong. And, you know, I'm with Julian Assange. I saw an interview recently where it's back, I think, about 2011, 2010, 2012 or something like that. And he was saying how you have to question whether we would be better off without our media right now. And I've been thinking about that more and more over this last week or two. Aren't we just better off without them entirely? Because all you have got from them for the last 4 years is lie after lie after lie. And people right now on the ground are confused. They're scared. They're broke. They're fucking hungry. They're worried about where their next paycheck is going to come. They're worried whether they're going to be able to keep their apartment. They're worried that whether they're going to have to be evicted and fucking be living under a bridge next week like millions of others in America. It's really, really fucking sad. And if we can't get enough, if there isn't enough impetus right now to get some sort of mass action to fucking change this, I don't think it's ever going to happen, because no more is there a perfect time than this for you to say enough is enough. We can see you're fucking lying to us, and it needs a huge, huge, monumental show of people power to be able to do that. And I really hope it's not just in America, but around the world. I'm fed up with the wars, and I know you guys are too.
Well said. That was beautiful.
Thank you.
Indeed.
Thank you.
Well, that's our show, everybody.
I know, right? Like that was
You
really
asked me to stick around. It's your fucking fault.
I got you. Nice. See, his rants are so much better than mine. Mine are like incoherent babblings.
It's not a dick measuring contest, man.
It is. It is.
Mister, you haven't been doing it long enough, mate. You should go back and watch my earlier stuff. I was shit.
I disagree.
My brain goes, I have severe ADHD, so my brain goes in like 400 different directions at one time. So it's very hard for me to like keep my thoughts together. So when I start ranting, it's like all the fuck over the place, my friend.
Yeah, I do my rants out of my car. So I'm like driving and also having to deal with traffic, you know. So it's talking about Assange and then just going, "Oh, you got to put your turn signal on, you fucking piece of shit." It's like Assange? Is Assange on the road? What the fuck is happening right now?
I love your road shows, by the way, man. Those are great.
Oh, thank you. No, I mean that was I think if you want to really see certain people get radicalized, it is because they pay attention to the media and the way that the media covers someone like Julian Assange. It's because even at the beginning, even when I didn't really know who Julian Assange was or what he was about or what the importance of WikiLeaks, just the way that they covered it didn't.
You got the
seem
sense
right.
it was wrong.
Yeah, it was just one of those things where I'm like, this feels weird.
Yeah.
This doesn't feel like this feels skeevy in a way. And then once you start, so it prompted me to look into what he was saying and into again, but it's like, again, they go into, you know, when you start looking into it and they go, they're like, oh, well, don't you think he's a little cold? Don't you think he's a little dickish in the way that he says things? And eventually it was like, maybe, but who gives a shit? Don't you think it's a little bit more dickish that we have American soldiers killing innocent civilians in other countries and also fucking journalists? Don't you think it's dickish that these credit card companies are committing fraud? Don't you think it's dickish that we just let the Scientology community do whatever the fuck they want to do? Don't you think it's dickish that Hillary Clinton basically thinks that she is owed the office of the president? Isn't that more dickish than him not making the proper amount of fucking eye contact
And
with
his
an
personality
interviewer?
quirks come from being autistic, fam. I mean, that's,
Yeah.
I mean, when you recognize that he is a diagnosed autistic, it very much makes sense. I'm the mother of an autistic child. That is very much a common thread, is lack of eye contacts. They seem sort of cold. They don't really necessarily know about, you know, societal norms and how to like interact and all of those things. So it's a very, I mean,
the other part to that is the man's a fucking genius.
yes.
An incredibly intelligent individual. And I've had the privilege of speaking to a number of incredibly intelligent individuals, and the common thread is exhaustion with having to explain this shit that to them couldn't be simpler.
It's
You
ABC.
know?
Like him having a conversation with most people, Julian Assange having a conversation, I would think, with most people would be like us trying to teach Shakespeare to our dog. You know, he must look at us like we're a different species sometimes. The man is so clever. I mean, it's the same with people like Elon Musk or what have you. And I find this throughout history that people who are incredibly intelligent tend to be cocks.
And
That's the way it is.
Here's the difference between Julian Assange and Elon Musk. Elon Musk looks at us like we're a different species and says, I must control these ants.
Mm-hmm.
I want to build an ant farm for these plebeians. Julian Assange goes, I want to give these people the information that will help them liberate themselves.
I want to educate them. To educate them, and that's the thing that I think education is something that if we all had, my God, that would really cause some real problems around the world, because the last thing that the people in control want and the elite and establishment is a populace that are educated and aware of what the fuck is going on, because then really would be in trouble.
Yeah, and the second that they do, that's whenever the whole let's start a movement to let's start doing this, let's start organizing and helping each other out and giving each other the things that our you know, crypto fascist government is not giving us. And you're right. I think that's what Assange is trying to do, and that's sort of the major difference between intellectuals like Julian Assange versus intellectuals in the tech industry. It's not about control. It's about, I want to give you the access to knowledge that's going to help you figure things out and make a better life for yourself, which I think is really the job of a journalist, is to put this information out there so people can look at it and go, well, that's fucked up. Or they might look at it and go, yeah, that's what the American military is supposed to do, but I think I have enough faith in people that they're going to look at some, like which is the most famous footage that Julian Assange revealed, is the American military shooting Reuters journalists, right? And it's like, you look at footage like that, and I don't think there's going to be really a lot of people that go, oh, fuck yeah, that's what America's all about. And they're going to look at that and go, wait a minute, is that what we're fucking doing over there? That's crazy. Even the most conservative person is going to look at that and go, well, that's my tax dollars hard at work. Why are we killing innocent civilians? That's not what freedom and justice is supposed to look like.
Yeah, I mean, continue showing people that video, because one of my best friends, she hadn't even seen it. I showed it to her about a year ago. I mean, so many, they buried it so much. A lot of people just haven't fucking seen it. So spread that shit.
It's important to remember that they lied about that as well before it came out. They lied. And when it came out, they still lied and still lied and still lied. And in the end, they were like, okay, yeah, it's us. It's not like they came out immediately, went, okay, all right, this is bad. No, they lied about killing these two British journalists, and that, however many people, and there was kids in the car when they did the second one. It was disgusting. But that's war, and that's what America does around the world. That's what we do around the world. That's our money. That's for every dollar that is spent on a bomb. That's your healthcare. That's food out of your family. That's that's people at home. It's this is what we're fighting against. It's an absolute monster that we're fighting against, but it's going to take more people to stand up to it. I hope that one day we reach that tipping point that enough people know, but we're going to have a struggle on our hands until we get there, I think.
Well said.
Yeah.
Steve, you want to continue with the next slide? We do have quite a
sure.
Okay.
Yeah, no, we do. This is slide 4. There were no written agreements to the best of my recollection at that stage, but the basis of the access to the documents and of the cooperation was that we, WikiLeaks, The Guardian, New York Times, and Der Spiegel, would all publish at the same time, but that we would all do independent stories, and our stories would refer to and link to the documents posted on the WikiLeaks website. Before publication of the Afghan War Diary, together with my colleague Marcel Rosenbach, I discussed in detail with Assange in London how the documents might be vetted to prevent risk of harm to anyone. He was in agreement as to the importance of protecting confidential sources, including certain US and ISAF sources. We discussed how harm could be minimized, and he explained the approach of WikiLeaks, namely that cases were identified where there might be a reasonable chance of harm occurring to the innocent. Those records, having been identified, were edited accordingly. I'm going to go straight into the next one. This approach was understood and agreed to by all of the media partners, and I described below how they were put into effect thereafter. Part of the agreement with WikiLeaks was that Assange insisted that we handle communications and the material securely. There were more extreme measures taken than I had ever previously observed as a journalist to secure the data and ensure that it remained only accessible to the members of the journalistic cooperation. It was the first time I was involved when crypto phones were used. We communicated on an encrypted chat system, and other means were used to protect the data. Eric Schmidt, not that Eric Schmidt, just want to make that perfectly clear, wrote an email to me on July 30th, 2010 about the attempt of Assange to get help from the U.S. government to vet the materials. On Saturday night, I passed along the White House's request that WikiLeaks redact the docs of informants' names, and then his response that he'd withheld about 15,000 documents and entertained suggestions from ISAF for names to remove if they'd provide technological assistance. Gonna just keep rolling through these real quick. I'll do one or two more and then we'll pause. I am aware that when the partners published their respective stories on July 25th, 2010, that WikiLeaks delayed the release of 15,000 documents as part of what Assange called the harm minimalization process. I remember it was the intention of WikiLeaks that the publication of the Iraq war logs be done with more preparation time. I received an email from David Lee on August 2nd, 2010, which said WikiLeaks say they require more time because they have a team attempting to redact bad stuff. They're not going to publish for quite a while now. Eric Schmidt also wrote an email on August 2nd, 2010, referring to WikiLeaks' request for more time. I remember the fact that WikiLeaks wanting more time bothered some members of the cooperation, and Julian Assange saying to me that he did not want to rush just because a member of the team wanted to publish before he retired. Here we've got, and in my mind, I think they're primarily speaking about David Lee from The Guardian here, but also certainly the New York Times, being leaned on by their own governments to force publication, early publication, so that Assange could walk into an easily springable trap. I don't know if anybody has an opinion on that. If you do, please share.
It looks like that they were helping the bare minimum to hope that he would slip up in some way, which is why he was being ultra cautious. That I can only assume that is what was happening at that time, looking at that statement.
And it was discussed in court quite a bit too during Goetz's testimony, and we'll probably get to it in the statement a bit. But just the level of care that Julian went to for that harm minimization process. Because it's something that people say he over-redacted information, that he literally just, any word that wasn't English was removed because of the context of where the information was coming from and what it was about, to help hide people's identities. And then they went back to look through that information to see what would be appropriate to unredact. So instead of starting from point zero and trying to find every detail, they removed as much as they could and then went back to make sure that information was put in context for what the release was. So I think that that's something that's super important too, is throughout this whole process, Julian was the one that wanted these delays to make sure that no one got hurt while this was being produced.
Which blows another huge hole in the prosecution's case, because that's one of the big accusations against him, is that the information that he put out put people in harm's way and it put people in danger and all those things, and he didn't make any effort to make sure that that wasn't the case. And we now clearly have seen, and it's been introduced into the court, that that is bullshit.
They're sitting here reading Luke Harding and David Lee's book in open court like it's a fucking document.
Yeah.
Sorry, Gordon.
Well, I mean, they do that a lot now, Steve. Remember the Democrats did that when they sued WikiLeaks and Russia and Putin and in that ridiculous lawsuits. I mean, it was incredible that they used as a fundraiser to obviously fund money, get money. We need money for this court case against Russia and Putin. It was pantomime almost, but they were using in that citation, in that document that when they were trying to sue Vladimir Putin and WikiLeaks, they were using, if I remember right, the Guardian article of the fugazi of a meeting between Manafort, where they said Manafort met Julian 4 times in the most heavily surveilled building on the planet. I mean, it was just the most ridiculous story. It's been stealth edited almost immediately because they realized that what a pile of shit it was. Luke Harding won't even refer to that in his new book Shadow State, which is incredible considering that was his big scoop of the last 5 years. And no Guardian journalist will refer to it in their own frigging publication. I mean, it doesn't go. If this doesn't scream, we're feeding people bullshit, I don't know what will. I mean, it's quite frankly pathetic. But it's really dangerous and sad, and just all those emotions as well. I have a special place of hatred in my heart for people at The Guardian because of what they've done. I mean, as you can see there's testimony from somebody who was going to say that Julian and WikiLeaks have gone over and above what other publications do. And then, the US's own defense team in the own prosecution team in the Chelsea Manning case had to actually specifically, they came out and said, there were nobody was actually put in harm's way from those WikiLeaks things. But in the press, it's a totally different story. They just republish people's accusations without actually telling people, no, actually he didn't. And it's unforgivable. They're not journalism. And I go back to my point. We're better off without them. We really are. Just switch them off. Switch them all off.
They do it in the same way that, they did the whole Russiagate thing of like, well, we all know Vladimir Putin supports Donald Trump, right? Like this matter-of-fact way. And they do the same thing with Julian Assange. Who knows? We all know that this could have put some people in harm's way, and it's like there's no proof of that. But that's the thing is if corporate media, and I think you're right, Gordon, is fuck them. The only reason you need to watch corporate media is to see what kind of bullshit propaganda they're trying to throw out to American people as facts. They kind
Zero chance of reform. Zero chance of reform. Zero chance of reform.
Agreed.
Zero.
Yeah, that's one of the, it's the same thing of like, oh, we can push Joe Biden to the left. I think the media can better itself. Well, no, it can't. There's no fucking way. They have no fucking reason to better them. What reason do they have to better themselves?
They're on the gravy train. There's no reason at all. They're on the gravy train.
Yeah,
Greenwald had
shit ton of money.
The institution he founded because the media can't be reformed.
Right.
When you co-found The Intercept and have to walk away from it, arguably way too late, then we're probably not going to turn over a new leaf anytime.
I mean, you guys, today, you go right now and look on the Guardian's website, their Manafort story is still up. It is still on their website. It has been thoroughly debunked. There's not an editor's note. There's nothing. It is just up on their website like it's still a story. It's crazy.
Well, they've had to apologise profusely for a story over here about a guy called Alan Banks and Brexit, which has fallen through the floor. I'm hearing that their big Cambridge Analytica story a few years ago might not be all it seemed, and there's allegations that, they didn't do a good job in that big report that they did, which was which was meant to be absolutely fantastic. The Guardian are circling the drain. It's just a matter of time before. I mean, who is going to buy that crap? Who?
I would like to challenge Luke Harding to a headbutt contest right now in real time. Luke, I know you're watching the show. Shot for shot, all right? Headbutt for headbutt. I want to see who's left standing. And I believe that Luke Harding is a hard-headed individual because you would have to be to print that tripe over and over and over again and not just spontaneously combust from the amount of flammable bullshit that you clearly are made of.
And listen,
I don't know what you're talking about, Steve. I don't know what you're talking about at all. Luke Harding is a great journalist, and his book, Collusion, proved without a doubt that there was collusion between Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin going back to the 80s. He was a sleeper agent all along, everybody.
You're mean, Aaron Monte. I'm out of here.
If you have not seen the interview between Luke Harding and Aaron Mattei, for the love of everything good in this world, go watch it. It's the best goddamn interview I've ever seen, and it is worth every single second of it. Every time we talk about Harding, I have to bring it up. It's seriously the best interview ever.
And on his last,
Mattei asking Luke Harding, so Luke, where's the collusion?
Your book, the name of your book is Collusion. Where is the collusion?
And
back in 1987, Donald Trump visited somewhere and had a conversation with, and really, my dude?
And when he asked,
same thing that they say. Oh, go ahead.
When he asked his last question, watch the smirk on Mate's face. It's fucking.
It's so good.
It's priceless.
I do. That is one of the things that's amazing with Aaron is that he has these people that he disagrees with, and he brings them on the show, and he's super respectful about them. But what's amazing is when he disagrees with them, and he knows that they're saying some bullshit, he does get that smirk on his face.
Yes,
like,
he does.
You're so full of fucking shit. Like
You're all bitter and collusion rejectionists.
Well, Gordon, it sounds like you're a collusion.
And look, man, I'm not.
Deniers.
Aaron Mate is not like infallible, but what he
No,
did
no.
to Luke Harding was
No.
absolutely fabulous, man. And
Nobody's better on Russiagate reporting.
No,
it
he's
proved
fantastic.
yesterday to see him be like, I'm really hopeful about some aspects of the Joe Biden administration, and here they are, and it's like all of
And it
the
was all
shit that they
bullshit,
promised not to do.
Yeah.
They promised to do horribly. And it's like,
I love Aaron. He is the best on Russiagate, and he's a good journalist. Like, he does great work, but there are just a lot of things that he's too nice, and I think, and he's admitted to it on Jimmy Dore. You know, some of us have to be worried about keeping our jobs. We have to be worried about, and I get that, but it's also disappointing because I do really love him, and I want to see him go like full balls to the wall, like take no prisoners.
Well, I was really hoping that he would push a little bit harder into Spygate, which is like the underlying reason why Russiagate, one of the two reasons why Russiagate came into existence. So that's the one thing that makes me sad is he does really good debunking Russiagate, but then stops short of why it was actually created to begin with.
Gotta keep getting invited to the right parties.
Yeah.
Right.
Gotta have the access that he has already, and if he goes too deep into the paint, that access goes away. And even Aaron has said as much. Like, this is a career for me, that I want to protect my job. So,
which I appreciate his honesty. At least he's straight up about it, which is nice. I mean, that's refreshing.
Yeah, and look, man, it gives you the ability to go look for other authoritative sources. And you don't have to just get stuck fanboying one reporter or one content creator or another. Like, that's not how it's supposed to fucking work, man. It's not.
Oh, yeah, for sure. The craziest part of the whole thing, though, to get like the full story of Russiagate, you have to put the Gray Zone and Judicial Watch's videos side by side to understand what's actually happening between the two. So it's just crazy.
Mostly because Tom Fitton is a crazy motherfucker. Like,
But so to pivot this back, though, because we were talking about Luke Harding and the Guardian and all that fun shit. In court, they had talked about what the actual strategy was for releasing the information that Luke Harding released when he put the codes into his book for the information. And it really just shows the difference in journalistic practice, where WikiLeaks wanted to go nation by nation and make Cablegate and the surrounding information a very impactful, large story where each country and city could digest it and what was appropriate for them over the course of a year or two. And then you have these Guardian people that literally just release all of the information at once with no care for anything.
All right,
Back
Steve.
slides.
Next slide.
okay.
We still have quite a few.
I think this is okay, I got to drop down one. Slide 6. While I was not involved, I am aware that the process for redaction of the Iraq data changed. Even more so than the Afghan war diaries, the redaction process replaced basically all names with blanks or X's. I remember reading stories involving WikiLeaks being criticized publicly for having adopted a process which involved, in the view of some others, over-redaction. Even documents that had been released by the Pentagon as a result of FOIA applications provided more information than the redacted WikiLeaks documents. I remember that during the preparations for Cablegate, the State Department initially actually participated in the redaction process. At Der Spiegel, we had a conference call with a number of officials from the Department of State, including PJ Crowley. They actually read numbers to us of documents they felt were too sensitive, with the understanding that we would give these numbers to WikiLeaks to properly redact the documents. WikiLeaks did exactly that when requested. Again, this is just blowing fucking the prosecution's argument should change its name to Goetz at this point.
For somebody who's not a journalist, he's acting awfully like a journalist and a journalistic outlet, isn't he?
Yeah, right. But he's not a journalist.
By the way, Josh, that was for you. It was.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. For like the 8 people who are watching that get the Goetz joke, that was also for you. I'm not going to explain it on the air. I'm not.
No.
Thank you.
Slide 8. WikiLeaks also played the role of public archivist. Its public library of U.S. diplomacy is an archive that no one contemplating doing a story on the recent history of the foreign relations of the U.S. would not at least first see what the WikiLeaks archive holds of relevance. If you were doing a story about the Kurds in 1990 or Italian politics of the 1960s, it would be a resource that you would visit. Much of the data published comes from, in fact, not from leaks categorized, but from millions of Freedom of Information Act inquiries by WikiLeaks in many countries, not just the US. Some of the information is already available, but is made more accessible in the WikiLeaks archives. For instance, the recent BBC 8-part podcast on the assassination of Benazir Bhutto constantly quotes from the American diplomatic cables. In that sense, the Public Library of U.S. Diplomacy is a journalistic product which has and will retain an enduring and important value to journalists. I'm just going to roll through the next couple here. I do not have direct knowledge, but many of the surrounding circumstances were played out in Germany, and I have read and seen reports that I believe to be correct. Those reports describe a series of unforeseeable events: the leaving by a former member of WikiLeaks with WikiLeaks electronic data, the publication of the code word by a central media partner, journalist, and a spreading awareness that access to the hidden files could be achieved. I am aware that against Julian Assange's strong attempts to prevent the publication of the unredacted material becoming accessible on the internet, nevertheless, it began to place, including publication on a widely viewed site, Cryptome, where I note it continues to appear without any apparent attempt to have it taken down. I am also aware, since film of WikiLeaks actions at the time have subsequently been broadcast, that Assange attempted to warn the State Department of the dangers about the publication of the data by others. I am also aware, from what has appeared in published commentary and records, that after a growing knowledge of widening publication, WikiLeaks in turn, for reasons it gave at the time, stated that the already widely published material could now, and not before, be seen also on WikiLeaks. At no time did I come to consider that Assange was responsible for knowingly publishing material that could harm other persons, but that there were unpredicted actions by others that resulted in publication against his wishes. As I have explained previously, an important body of my work as an investigative journalist has been to seek to discover and unravel the details of disturbing state conduct in the circumstances of war. The starting point for inquiries that may lead to otherwise undetected evidence of grave state criminality has been sometimes triggered by public events in which the true facts have nevertheless been concealed, such as the German-ordered bombing in Kunduz I described previously. The starting point for others has been triggered by a fragment of information about an individual. Such was the case of Khalid al-Masri. I'm going to pause here for a moment because there's only 2 left, and I feel like we've done a decent job of barreling through it.
So, I mean, he basically comes out and says that everybody else put other people at harm, except for Julian Assange. Julian Assange was actually trying to prevent that shit. And like, it's how much more, again, it's like that media fucking narrative of, well, he could have put people at harm is completely debunked by this statement. It's like, what more do you want? How much more do we need to bury that bullshit argument? That's the people that take his information and they put other people at harm. Well, he was just like, hey, fucking don't do that. you're gonna endanger people's lives. And he's trying to keep his sources confidential, which is what you're supposed to do anyway. Like, and even someone like Bob Woodward came out and basically defended exactly what Julian Assange did as something that a publisher and a journalist would do. Like, like it's insane to me. Like, how much more proof do we need that this dude did no harm, that he actually like did better for the people?
I think there's a point in that passage that you've just read out where they're saying how much Julian went to lengths to inform the State Department that these were out there, and I believe you will see a film of it, and this is when I think it's one of his assistants is on the phone and he passes a post-it note with emergency written on it. Is that right, Steve?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And that's when he's literally trying to call Secretary of State Hillary Clinton at the time to say, this is, it wasn't him, it wasn't WikiLeaks' fault, but they were still trying to get there, saying this is out there. Who put it there? That's up for debate, I suppose, but it certainly wasn't Julian or WikiLeaks or any of their responsibility.
Well, and this is also why
courtroom you have the U.S. drinking its own Kool-Aid, to where the prosecution, when they came into court, didn't even know the timeline of who published what information first. They were just repeating the propaganda that people hear on television, that WikiLeaks hurt people, that they put this information out there first, that they put people in harm's way. Well,
that's what the Kronberg document said. That's what they had to refer to. They've been relying on a work of fiction the entire time. So yeah, they're responsible for reading out and referring to a work of fiction. At the same time, the prosecution themselves have also been more or less victimized by their own fucking propaganda. It's a nice little M. Night Shyamalan-esque twist in the middle of all of this. It's why the narrative changed throughout the course of the hearing. If you'll recall, and this takes about a minute and a half, I've got it down pretty good. At the beginning of the hearing, the prosecution was saying it doesn't matter if we extradite Julian Assange because he's not a journalist. And then after this statement and several others, they went from, okay, well, he is a journalist, but the U.S. has the right to prosecute any journalist or publisher anywhere. Whoops, shouldn't have said that out loud. It's really because he had a conversation with Chelsea Manning about maybe hacking something. Yeah, it turns out that she didn't need a username or password to access any of these materials. So it really has to do with the fact that he put people in harm's way. Oh, he didn't put people in harm's way? Well, then we don't like this motherfucker and we want him tortured now. Give him to us. And that's where they rested the case.
Yeah, that's
I'm going to pull the tweet up here, but the prosecution more or less storms out of the room in frustration while talking to Goetz. So lead prosecutor James Lewis abandons cross-examining Goetz, recognizing that Goetz is so knowledgeable about what happened with the releases that he chooses to spend far less time with him than any other witness.
When you have to walk away from a witness because he's kicking your ass.
And this was after
Mega
the coronavirus scare. This was after the dog had already ate his homework, and this is after he never made it back to his house because he went to his other house. And oh shit, I'm gonna be late for this meeting. I'm covered in cocaine and hooker blood. We should. Can we reschedule? Oh, we can't reschedule. Claire, get in there. Oh, my husband may or may not have symptoms that may or may not be COVID-like, and we've got to call off court for the rest of the week. Can we do that? We can? Oh, thank God. We're out of here. All right. We're on. And this is the most important press freedom trial in our lifetimes. And this is how the prosecution is behaving. And people are supposed to look at this like it's a legitimate thing, like it's a real thing, like it's an actual process here.
Well, you got an animal cornered. You have a feral animal that's been cornered. That's what American imperialism is right now. It's a feral animal in the corner, so it's just doing whatever it can. So it's just saying
equate it to 30 or 40 feral hogs. Krish.
I will. Let's go 40. Why? This is America. Damn it.
This is America.
No
Damn
big to
it.
go home. We're 40 feral hogs.
Wait, shouldn't we have
guys,
one for each star on the flag? It's very American. Shouldn't they be feral eagles? Feral eagles with fireworks shooting out of their ass?
Ben
lovely,
Franklin was right when he said that our mascot should have been the wild turkey.
Yeah.
Definitely. And I think to your point, Steve, I think that they're hoping that people won't look at this at all. You said people are supposed to look at this and see it as like a legitimate case. No, I think they're just hoping that people won't look at it. I think they're hoping that they can, just get it under the radar.
That's exactly what it is, Steve. I mean, you only need to look at this. Steve, you've just said that this is the most important press freedom case in our lifetimes, and I would go further than saying that this is the biggest press freedom case ever in the history of ever. And what's should really jump out at you and speak to everybody to say the media are fucking lying to you about all this is that in the 4 weeks of this trial, The Guardian wrote 4 articles. Do you know how many articles they wrote on the day that Johnny Depp lost his court case against him? 6. They wrote 6 on that day.
On one day.
Wrote 4 about the biggest trial in the history of press freedom.
Shout out to George Galloway.
What does that tell you about our wonderful press in the UK? It tells me that it stinks.
That's probably more than the United States, than the mainstream media in the United States did. I would venture to say that that's more, that The Guardian actually did more than any mainstream media outlet in the United States.
Woo, well done, Guardian! Woo-hoo!
Yeah, they're the incrementalism of journalism. That's what the Guardian.
It is very telling. It is very
talked about it.
That the media isn't covering this because this is, like you said, the greatest press freedom trial in the history of everdom, and journalists aren't talking about it. Media isn't talking about it.
It's also a farce because they're trying all these tricks and it's all failing. It's all blowing up in their face. So like they don't know what to do. So if they put this on corporate media, if you get this on CNN or MSNBC or Fox News or NPR or whatever the fuck it is, if you get it on any one of those, all you're going to show is that the American empire is incompetent in getting someone that exposes what the American empire is. And then the American empire is just exposing what the fuck it is. So they can't use their propaganda networks to show what a farce they really are. So they're never going to cover it, right? So then you do have something like The Guardian in the UK writing 1 article a week about, what's going on. And they're not going to cover Julian Assange in the light that's actually true and factual. They're going to cover it in the light that they want to cover him in. And I think all of the people that were mentioned, what was it? The New York Times, Der Spiegel, Guardian, and maybe one other one that I can't remember. All of these people should be fucking terrified because the United States basically came out and said that they can prosecute any journalist at any time, anywhere that they want. And they should all be like, whoa, 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 whoa. What the fuck did you just say? And that should be the fucking news story that everybody talks about, is that the empire just came out and said that it's going to prosecute fucking journalists.
Well,
and how is that not
kills me about
cover the story? We couldn't get most major independent media platforms to each day talk a little bit about what happened in Julian's case. Like
we got in trouble for saying that.
Yeah.
Well, you had some. I think you had.
Absolutely was. Like Kevin Gostola did a wonderful job. Like Steve in particular did fucking amazing, getting up every goddamn morning to cover the actual case as it was happening.
1:45 a.m. my alarm went off, and then about 2:20 I would actually drag my carcass out of bed and make a giant cup of coffee from the Death Wish Coffee Company.
Hey, that's the next coffee I got on my way.
Then go do like 4 hours or 4.5 hours of coverage, and then go to work for 8 hours, and then come back and do a show or come back and do a vigil and do it all over again the next day. And I gotta say, man, it was fucking brutal.
Yeah. But if we can't get independent media, if we can't get the majority, 98% of the media that's supposed to be outside of the military industrial complex to talk about this story without shaming them, right? Because TYT did it because Kimber did an amazing job just asking politely.
And Glory Jones.
And then they got shamed because they were like, well, yeah, we'll talk about this later, right? So,
but we got to look into it.
Right. So
I mean, listen, Steve's up every day.
Even expect the mainstream media to publish these stories.
TYT is the mainstream media. Let's not fucking mince words about that. The reason that I call Cenk Uygur cable news on the internet, guy, is because they are a cable news show on the fucking internet.
Where the fuck was everybody else, Steve? That's my problem. Where the fuck? I had to shame people on Twitter to get like 8-minute videos out of people with massive platforms.
You did a fantastic job with that.
At the same time, we're releasing 24-minute videos analyzing Joe Biden campaign ads.
Or how many Elizabeth Warren videos do we need? I mean, how many? I mean,
apparently, you need 7 a day, and then you get to host fault lines.
Right.
Guys, I don't think you realise just how important a story it was when that fly landed on Mike Pence's head. Everything else needs to go into the back seat because this is the most important story, isn't it, Rachel?
Well, they don't know how to make that. They don't know how to make something like Julian Assange entertaining. But boy, that fly. Oh man, what a goofy, crazy thing! And it's just like you don't know how to fucking talk about the most important fucking case in the.
The guy from the Guardian who was like, "Oh, well, you know, there hasn't really been much going on in the case, so I just haven't covered it." Are you fucking crazy?
Yeah.
The guy at the BBC said it's been too repetitive.
Yes.
Yeah, repetitive. Talk of war crimes every day, repetitive.
And human rights violations.
Yeah, in a U.S. courtroom.
Good.
Yeah.
Everybody, you should be talking about U.S. war crimes in a U.S. courtroom. That's where the fucking war crimes should be talked about. What the fucking like? That's the point. Why do we have a court if we're not going to fucking talk about U.S. war crimes?
To talk about war crimes a little bit, the statement that we were on for Goetz ends off, or where we left off was, such was the
nice transition, Andrew.
We've already done the witness statement of El Masri, and we've had like a vigil or two on it, so I don't know if we need to go into it thoroughly.
Right.
Yeah, it's way past my bedtime, guys.
Or at least that's good.
I'll shoot the short of it real quick. Khalid Masri was a guy that was on vacation, that got kidnapped by the CIA, tortured in Macedonia, sodomized on an airplane, flown to the salt pits of Afghanistan. They found out, well, they knew that he was the wrong guy the majority of the time, continued to torture him, reverse kidnapped him, and dropped him off in the mountains of Albania. His family, I believe, had already moved back to Lebanon, I believe is where his family was from, while he was being tortured in Afghanistan because they didn't have the means to support themselves. He was finally released and then had to be arrested and deported in Albania back to Germany to then try to make it to Lebanon to see his family after being held for, I believe, almost 4 months in CIA.
Yeah, but it's not as juicy as that fly story, man.
You're bumming me out, Andrew.
During that debate, like, Pence was like, if we lose, we're not leaving. And Kamala Harris was like, we're not going to change anything about what the Trump administration is doing. And the entire, like, television audience
was like, stop being racist. Stop being racist. It's not Kamala, it's Kamala. You're racist if you say Kamala, mate. That's the word with the libs anyway.
Oh.
Okay.
Oh, now we're gonna get on a hissy fit about pronouncing Indian names properly.
I've been calling her Camillary for the better part of 4 years, so I'm just gonna run with Camillary.
There you go. There you go.
I like it. I'm going with that.
I like it. Yeah, that's good. I like
Feel free to steal that, by the way.
Camillary, I like it. I'm gonna.
You can call Elizabeth Warren Elizabeth Warbama.
Camillary Warbama. I like it. Camillary Warbama.
Hey, Elizabeth Warren did have a very green military plane where we were going to compost our
solar drones.
So.
Yeah.
That was that was the big thing for her.
In lieu of
we got like
depleted
274
uranium,
videos
we've
out.
made these hellfires biodegradable.
Yeah.
We're going to make our war machine green.
And how many
Our tanks are going to run on solar panels.
Well, that's what we fucking need.
Wow. All right, folks. Well, we've been at it for about 2 hours, and I want to thank you, gentlemen, for spending the entire vigil with us. I really enjoy it when you're on individually, and have you on together has been a fucking treat for me. Will you please give us some final thoughts? Let people know where they can find your stuff, and yeah, just thanks again.
Okay, yeah. My name's Gordon Dimmack. I'm Gordon Dimmack on YouTube, gordondimmack.com. And my final thought is this. I have been watching this thing for very closely for 3 to 4 years, and there's only one decision: no extradition. Free Julian Assange. Pardon him, Trump. Pardon him. That'll really piss him off.
Yes.
Yeah, my name is Krish Mohan. I'm a comedian, and you can follow me at Krish Mohan Haha, KrishMohanHAHA. That's also my website, krishmohanhaha.com. And my final thoughts are similar to Gordon's. I don't think we need. There absolutely shouldn't be an extradition. More people should be educated about who Julian Assange is, why he's important. And what he represents, and what he represents is the people to get access to information, and that knowledge is power. And once we have that knowledge, we can come together and actually push back against an authoritarian oligarchy that doesn't need to be here. And that's not going to come until we drop our ego and drop our smugness and start listening to each other and start giving a shit about people that we are probably going to disagree with. Like I said, or rather Gordon said, 5% of the time. Empathy can be a son of a bitch, but if we're all doing it, then it weighs up a whole lot less.
This is why, as your interim president, I have made DMT mandatory.
Yeah.
Ego death and opening up your empath centers.
Yes, I'm for it.
I would like to thank everybody for joining us. I'd like to thank you two for coming on for all of this. I'm Andrew Smith. You can find me on Twitter at Andrew Zigman. You can find us on Twitter at action_4 Assange. We have a bunch of different calls to action up on our website that you can participate in, from demanding pardons to contacting your local congressional representative about Gabbard and Massey's bills to amend the Espionage Act and pardon Edward and Julian. But yeah, thank you for Josh for helping out behind the scenes, and for my two wonderful co-hosts for joining.
You're all awesome. I love you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Gordon.
Keep kicking ass.
And I am Misty Winston. Andrew, first of all, I want to thank you for a better jazz hands, because Tuesday was a little lackluster, so I feel better about it today. Today was better. And I also want to thank Krish and Gordon for coming on. You guys are amazing. I love both of you. And I'm so thankful that you guys were here today. Thanks to my hosts. And as always, thanks to the people in the chat. You guys are amazing, and we love you so much. So, and you can find me on Twitter at Sarcasm Stardust. And then you can find my other show, Facts on the Ground with Jesse Zerwell, at Facts on the Ground on YouTube. And then at FOTG Podcast on Twitter, if you are interested in that. So yeah, thanks guys.
My name is Steve Poitkin, and I host a show called Slow News Day, which you should be watching on the Rockfin. However, if you haven't made your free account or endorsed a content creator there, you can find me on YouTube and DLive. Tomorrow, I will be joined by documentary filmmaker Juan Passarelli and intrepid reporter and good friend Vanessa Beeley. That's going to be a high-test show. Be there for that. Sunday evenings, Rockfin only show. I think I want to do another moderator stream. So if you're a chat mod for Slow News Day, hit me up, spsnd@protonmail.com, and we'll work out the logistics for that. What else? I just, thank you to my co-host. Thank you to Sleepy Josh on the 1s and 2s and the graphics. Thank you to Krish Mohan and Gordon Dimmack. I love both of you gentlemen very much, and to everyone out in the chat. We do the show for you guys, and we hope that what you learn here you take with you and you go scream into somebody's face as politely as possible. We will see you. I'll see you hopefully tomorrow. Until then, good luck to us all.